These are my cores. I'm going to throw them back in the oven. All I did is I glued the two halves together here. And I cast 5 of these. All I did was make me up a quick little core box, which will probably be upgraded at some point in time. But there's my little core box. All it is just some pieces of plywood I glued and nailed together and laid some body filler in there, and then put my 3/4 inch rod in there, which is the diameter I wanted for the core. So all I did was, this one's a broken one, I made up 5 of them. I just rammed them in there. This is just a molasses, wheat flour, and sand mixture, and they've been in the oven in there. So I've got 2 good ones here, glued together. I'm going to throw them back in the oven just to keep them warm, and then we're going to go out and fire up that new little casting furnace and see how it works. Okay, well that took probably just about 40 minutes to get it up to temperature. 35 to 45 minutes with this setup right here to get a full pot. I've got a little more capacity, I think, in this one than in that in the silicon carbide crucible. But we'll play with it a little bit and see what we can come up with there. Like I say, other than this one right here that I slipped on, didn't have a good enough hold on the bottom. I've got a little nubbin stick out on the bottom of it. So anyway, let's get these off and out of the way. And then we'll let it set and cool for a while. And we'll pop them open and see what we got. Alright, well, it hadn't been very long, but I'm kind of antsy here, so let's go ahead and pop these open and see what we got. Let's see, I think you got a little bit of a picture of the wheelbarrow here. I'm going to break this big one open first if we can. So much for that. Now let's look at the fun stuff. Now this is the one that I thought was probably short. Let's see what it does. Well, in aluminum, that's a good casting. I thought that one was going to be short. We got a little bit. There's our headstock end. Yeah, we got a little bit of fallout here, a little bit of sand that fell in there. But all in all, that'll work. I'm not displeased with that one. So that was the one I thought wasn't going to come out. Let's see what the tailstock looks like. Nice. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. And there's our tailstock end. I'm going to let these cool a little bit, and we'll cut the gates off and clean them up just a little bit, and then I'll bring you back and we'll see what our final outcome is for these. Like I say, ultimately they'll be cast iron, but for first castings on an aluminum casting, I'm not unhappy with that at all. Okay, well, here's my Tales of Woe. Here's our headstock casting. This is the one that I thought didn't come out well. And this is our tailstock casting. So all in all, first castings out of these, I'm very, very pleased with them. They're, you know, we're going to go ahead and machine these out. We'll use these to figure out the tooling for all of the internal parts and all the extra stuff. So I still have to make up the pattern for the adjustment bar that slides along the headstock end. But anyway, there's our castings. Now, I went ahead and I had some flashing on these and stuff, which I knew, so that was okay too. You know, if you look at original castings, they've got a whole lot worse grinder marks than what I do, and we finish these out. So, and we just hit it with a fine polishing disc is what I've done. Now, a few flaws, quite a few flaws, but nonetheless, my cores are too big. I've got more than half of the core on there, so I've got oval core holes. And there again, even at that, there's plenty of material on there, which is a 3/4 inch core. I think we've got at least an inch shaft that goes through there, or you know, parts that go through there. So that's not an issue. I actually think these will clean up, but that's something we'll change. You know, and those will probably go to a CO2 core is what I'll probably ultimately do those in. This was just a molasses wheat flour sand mixture, is all this was, because it was quick and easy, and I could throw them in the oven and come up with cores. So that's not a big deal at all there. Now, what I did notice on the tailstock end is I had some shrinkage here on the bottom, and it's the way that I fed it. Our sprue went in and fed right here, and then our riser came off the backside up here, or on top. So I will probably do that differently. I will probably, I don't know if I'm still going to put my sprue there, or if I'm going to shift my sprue to this side and then bring a riser up here. Otherwise, we may bring another riser over here. I may continue to feed it there, put a riser here and another riser probably here, because those are thick portions of the core. Anyway, that's more my fault than it is the design of them. Now, I didn't say anything earlier, because it wasn't that big a deal, but when I originally developed the patterns, when I showed them to you in the last video, just to show you the progress of them, I made a change to it since then. It still looked like we had too much material through here, so I took a substantial amount of material off the pattern itself and contoured it in. I thought it made it a little more streamlined. It was just too bulky through there, so there was too much material, and I think this looks quite a bit better. So this shrinkage here, this all gets machined away anyway. This comes down a fair amount. I left extra machining allowance on the bottom of that because it's got, it gets decked off flat, and they'll have to match, you know, they'll have to match in height. And then we get a keyway cut in here, so a substantial amount of material gets machined off the bottom anyway. Not a big issue there. All in all, they came out real good for, you know, first castings of the season, and you know, first castings on a new pattern. I'm not unhappy with those at all. So anyway, we'll start machining these out. Like I say, I'm going to go ahead and develop these patterns, even though they are aluminum rather than cast iron, because they'll be a good functional set. There's nothing wrong with them at all in cast in aluminum as opposed to cast iron, but other than they're traditionally cast in cast iron, and that's, you know, there are some advantages to it probably, but on a little light machine like this, there's probably not a whole lot of advantage that you're going to see. You know, back when all of these parts were originally machined and everything was cast iron was the norm. Aluminum alloys were kind of they were more specialized probably at that time than cast iron was. They just took iron, melted it in usually a cupola furnace or some sort of a furnace, and they made things out of cast iron. I'll develop the process for machining out these castings, and hopefully kind of perfect. I'll say perfect. It won't be perfected, but I'll work out my machining processes to bore them and do all the machining operations on them. So yeah, I have a headstock and a tailstock for Atlas index centers. So hopefully you found that interesting. If you didn't have it already, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that subscribe button. If you hit the bell notification, you'll know when I put out a new video. And any thoughts or comments, leave them in the comment section for me below. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.